Out of the box, first impressions of the OF 1400 Festool. This was my very first router. This is a Ryobi. There's not a lot to it. It's basically a motor that turns a bit. There's not a lot of jigs that can go to it, not a lot of micro adjustments, not a lot of anything. After that, I upgraded, and now I basically use a combination of these three. The reason I use a combination of these three is this one's a bigger one and it has a 1/2 inch shank. This one's the medium one if I don't want to use the battery one, and it's a 1/4 inch shank. And this one's the trim router that I've got a plunge base for that I can grab, and it doesn't have a cord. Now, one thing that's really interesting about this one that's kind of surprising me is it comes with a number of collets, and you can switch the collets back and forth between them. So if I have a 1/2 inch shank or a 1/4 inch shank, it doesn't really matter. I can use either one. When it comes to routers, what I look at is we'll isolate some variables. So let's just assume for a minute that the 2 or the 3 or the 4 routers that we're looking at have the same power, the same motor, and the same ability to turn a bit around. And the bit is the same one, right? So they might be able to all cut into the wood, and some of them might have a soft start and some of them might have a break. But if let's just assume for a minute that they all cut the wood about the same. Then the thing that we're really trying to isolate is how long does it take to get set up? In particular, how long would it take to grab it off the shelf, decide you're going to do rabbits or dados or whatever it is that you want to do, and get the bit inside, get the right bushing in, get the right whatever, the right base plate on, and then get it adjusted and get it set so you can make repeatable cuts. And so if you had one router that normally took you 6 minutes every setup and you had a different one that only took you 3, then you're saving half the time. And you could multiply the total number of 3-minute savings over the number of times you use the router the entire year, and that's the total number of savings. That really does help. And let's be honest, the fun of woodwork isn't setting your tools up. The fun of woodwork is actually doing the woodwork, right? So you can get down to business. So here's something right off the start that's kind of blowing my mind. On my Makita right here, if I want to change this bit, I got to push that button and I have to use a wrench, and I turn it, I take it off, I put it back on, I turn it, I take it off, I put it back on, and then I can change the bit. On this one, there is no button. You actually have to have 2 wrenches to make it happen. And on this one, you can pop that off, you push the button, and then same thing, you take it on and off. But check this out. What they've done is they've got this down button and this up button that turns this collet into a ratchet. So if you look at these 2 wrenches, right, this is a normal wrench, and this one here, somebody had the genius idea of putting a ratchet inside of it. And if you had to choose this wrench or this wrench, you'd go with this one every day. It's going to be a little bit faster. So that's essentially what Festool's done here. You have a down and an up. So if you want to loosen the bit off, you put this on one time, you loosen it off, you set your bit in, tighten it up with your finger, put your wrench on, listen, and you're done. So I know it's kind of a silly thing to not have to take it on and put it off, but if you ever change router bits, you know that sometimes it's frustrating depending on which bit you're putting in. So that is already one way that you're going to save a ton of time on your setup, is just this bit changing. Another thing that I really like is you see that I use a lot of different base plates and things like that. So I use Milescraft. They make some really good base plates to make your routers more useful. So on here I have a mortising pin one. Then I've got this one that I'll put onto different routers that basically has different size bushings, so the different size bits that I'm using. You have to take the time to find the center, put the screws in, and then you're ready to go. The combo between the 2 of them works. I've done everything. I'm not here to crap on Makita. I'm just trying to do like an accurate, candid evaluation between the 2. Festool recognizes you're going to make changes lots of the times, and having to set it up and center it takes a little bit of time. So they've got, this is one of the bushing guides that comes with it, and you can put different size bushings inside of here. And all you do is put it on, clip it in, and you're done. When you want to take it off, these 2 green buttons down here, you push them in, and it's off. I'm in and out and done. And then they've got this one that comes in the kit. I've actually looked through their catalog now, and there's a whole bunch of things that I want to get for this router. But same idea, clips right in. Let's say you're doing some edge mortising or something like, or some edge routing. This is both a dust collection and a safety mechanism, and you can twist it across the bottom to match up the direction of which way you're going. And then again, just pops off easy. Let's talk about the cord. So the cord does come off. On the Makitas, it doesn't come off. This is the first time I've ever had one that does. But you pop it in, twist it, and it's locked and the cord is in. You want to take it off for easy storage or whatever reason you want to take it off, boom, it's off. This one has a speed control, so a variable speed control on it. My Makita does not have it, but that model you actually can get with it. Let's talk about the setup time, and let's compare 2 of the routers. Let's say that I want to use these side deals here to set a 1/2 inch depth, for example. So in order to change where my guide rod or my depth rod is hitting here, I loosen this off, I screw it, I push that button, and then the rod can go up and down. It's a threaded rod. And then I can find my depth, or I find out where I want to be, or the height of my material. I screw that back in, and then I can use this red deal here. If you look straight down the red thing and you have a nice level eye, then you can come and set it where you want, and you make micro adjustments with this deal up top. It works. I've used it a lot. It's a decent system. I thought it was a great system. But now on the Festool here, instead of a threaded rod, they have a straight, like a smooth rod. And all you do is you twist that off, and then you can set your depth. And they have this adjuster here, which is actually right beside the numbers, as opposed to like a little bit further away. And you can tell much more accurately where you're at. So like unscrew, push the button, push it down, versus just one flip and you're done. It's a little thing, but it does make a difference, and it does go a whole lot faster. On the Makita, when you want to set your depth, push down and you use this little wing nut on the back side. On the Festool, it's here on the side. So you twist that, you can push down, and then you lock it like that. Now, let's talk about the dust. On the Makita, I have a dust thing, and dust is really hard to deal with on routers because it's shooting dust all over the place at a really high velocity, and your vacuum power has to basically be sucking at a higher velocity than the chip plus mass plus direction or whatever the deal is. So you can see here on the Makita, I have the dust port or the dust collector on top of it, but the amount of room between the bit and this area here leaves a lot of room for dust to come out. And so I use it, but I don't feel like it's that effective. By contrast, what Festool has here is a dust collector system that if your bit is already on, around your bit, you'll come and you'll clip it in, and then on the back side right here, you'll lock that in, and now that's in there and tight. You put your vacuum on, and then you can come here and you can lock this in place, which makes a nice circle, which is the same roughly or just larger than the diameter of this collet. So having a round collet, it goes and it fits just inside of that, which drastically reduces the amount of room between the collet and the dust collection, so that it has way less room for sawdust to come out. So you're going to get way better dust collection from the top. And then with Festool, with the other jigs that they have that also fit on the bottom, if you're edge routing or something like that, they also have dust collection from the bottom. So you can be collecting dust on the top and on the bottom and do a way better job of dust collecting than you do with the Makita. Now, you know I love using the routers on the track. So I've got the Makita track router adapter. So in order to do, once it's on the track, if you want to make adjustments to where the router sits, you loosen those two wing nuts off and you can move the router back and forth. And you have to eyeball it, and then once you've got it where you want it, you go and lock those two down. If you want to take it off, you have to loosen that one off. You have to loosen 4 of them off, basically. You take the back side off, and then the router slides off. With the Festool, 2 rods fit actually into the router, and you don't have a back side on this one because the back side of the Makita has a little elevation piece on the back so that you can set it up the height of your track, right? So your router sits straight. So you don't have a backside, and you're tightening it up. You only have this one nut right here that has 2 locking mechanisms that come and press against the bottom of the rods. So 1 versus 4. And then they have a router track kit that goes on their track saw track. And they also have an edge routing guide that goes on it. And both of them, when you slide them on, they have micro adjustments. So once you're all locked in place, you can actually make the fine adjustments, very similar to what you have right here to make your micro adjustments. So you saw me on the Makita, I loosened the 2 wing nuts off, and I just would move it back and forth and then tighten them down. With this one, you're going to get a higher degree of micro adjustment because of the way that they have it set up. So I haven't even turned this router on yet. I've just been looking at it from the point of view like, how long does it take to get the router, set it up, have it micro adjusted and ready to do 1, 2 or repeatable cuts, whatever it might be. And I have to tell you, I am really impressed with some of the engineering. It's not that I'm dissatisfied with Makita, right? Like, I've been using this entire time. You never see me in my videos being like, I can't believe this stupid Makita and what it does. I like the Makita tools, but what I'm telling you is out of the box, this thing is really impressing me for the amount of engineering and the clever designs that they have for doing router specific things. And I love routers. So now I'm excited to actually turn it on and get to use it.